Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're in black and white because we're talking about the Leica Q2 monochrome. But before I give you my thoughts, my impressions, and kind of how I felt using it for about a week, which I know is not a very long time, I want to do a quick test, a little side-by-side test, because we're going to get to this at the end. I'm going to show you a set of images, set at the same aperture, same-ish focal length, and one's going to be the Fuji and one's going to be the Leica Q2. And, well, I want you to look at those. You can even pause the video, write down your results, and I'll tell you afterwards which is which. And then I want you to kind of give me your initial thoughts and impressions. All right, now you had a chance to do that. I'll tell you at the end of this video which was which, but a couple of things about this camera. First of all, the Leica Q2, I had mixed feelings on it when I had the color version of it. I've come to appreciate it a lot more. I like the fact that it's got this nice body and design, rounded edges. I like it's, the fact that it's got the shutter speed dial here and this control wheel up top. If you guys can see this right here, right there. And it has a button on top. Oh. Sorry, my son came in. But what I was trying to tell you was I like the fact they have this control wheel right here. There's a button on top that can click to change like ISO or whatever you want it to be, exposure compensation. It's built really well. I like the way the monochrome looks with all black and white writing. The fact that it doesn't have the big Leica logo on the front. I like the kind of the P version of this, if you will. If you guys know what that means, like the M10P, M11P, they don't have the big logo on it. They just have like the Leica inscription on top. I like all that. And on its face alone, the Leica Q2 is a very compelling kind of offering from Leica because you get access to a high resolution full frame sensor. You get a really good 28mm 1.7 lens. You get the semi pseudo macro function, so you can get up close and flip over. The way it interacts is really good. The way you do manual focus is really cool. On its surface, it's a really compelling camera. It can do video, although I wouldn't recommend it. And you can get these used for like $4,000-ish, give or take. And when you think about like what your alternatives might be, you could get something like a Canon R5 or a Nikon Z8 or Z7 or whatever, and not have like this design language and the beautiful construction. And if you put a 35-1.4 or 28-1.4 or 24-1.4 or whatever to kind of get the same type of output, or 28-1.7 if they make such a thing, I don't think they do, you're going to be spending similar money. Maybe not the same, but you're going to get pretty close. And so on its surface, this actually is a very compelling package. I like the Leica Photos app. I think it's one of the best photo apps that are made for cameras. And so from that perspective, I really like the Leica Q2. The Q3 I perceive would be the same thing. And this monochrome in particular is very interesting. However, the question is it worth it? I think it's one of those deals where it's like beauty's in the eye of the beholder, because if you want to shoot just monochrome, black and white, or you love just 28mm, the Leica Q2 or Q2 monochrome will be very interesting to you. I know there's crop modes. I don't know. I guess it only helps for framing, but you're stuck to the lens. You're married to it in 28mm. But in saying all that, it's a very interesting, compelling package if this is kind of your thing. In other words, if you want to stick to one focal length, if you want to stick to just black and white, or if you have the color version, you're okay with, Leica's colors. But the question, is it worth it? Because what I found on my trip was I was shooting with this for the first few days. And then at some point I said, there were some beautiful sunsets and stuff like that I ran across. And I said, man, I kind of wish that those were in color. And one of the benefits of shooting on something like this Fuji or whatever camera you use is that if you shoot in RAW, you have the ability to always have the color version if you prefer black and white. But you might be saying, well, Eric, this is a monochrome sensor. It can shoot higher ISO. It does a lot better tonality and detail over a color array filter sitting on a normal sensor. And you're right about that. I'll show some pictures as I'm talking here. It has a very interesting, I would say, somewhat unique look in the respect that the gray tones are just smoother. The detail, it has kind of a filmic aesthetic to it. It's hard to explain. I'm not even sure I'm doing a good job of it. But I think it looks really, really good. But sometimes you might want that color. And if you bring this camera out, You got to be committed to shooting only black and white. That's okay. And I would even say black and white in a lot of cases, especially if you're documenting your family like I do all the time, has a timeless look to them. Now, your wife, your girlfriend, typically, whatever, women, I don't know, it seems to be a women thing. I don't know. They always want things in color. And that's just from my experience. My wife wants it in color. My friends' wives want it in color. Any girl I talk to, they're like, can you make it in color? I think women like color. I don't know. That's a general statement. I'm trying not to stereotype, but it just seems like the men might like black and white a little more, and maybe the ladies like color or like color a bit more. But anyways, to say that, I think black and white has a very timeless look. And no matter when you shoot black and white, if you look back years later, that black and white always looked good. Whereas if you were to shoot color, depending on what camera you're on, your editing styles at the time, like that editing style could look dated 5 years from now, or those colors can look kind of dated 5 years from now. That's, I guess, the benefit of shooting raw, right? You can always go back and re-edit those photos. Sorry, kid number 2. Is this even recording? Yeah, it is. Okay. Sorry, kid number 2 popped in, so getting a lot of interruptions here. What I'm saying all this for is to get to one point. The images you saw in the beginning of the video, were there differences in those images? Yes, there was, but not a ton. And so to give you the answer, all of image A was my Fuji X-T5 with the Sigma 18-50 f2.8 at 2.8 at 18 millimeters. A 40 megapixel sensor, that's a sharp zoom lens, and it was just the basic straight out of camera monochrome profile. All of B was the Q2 in its basic profile, I think contrast to +1, and also shot 28 millimeters f2.8. So I guess one of the differences would be if I shot 1.7, the depth of field fall off would be different, and that'd be noticeable. But the point kind of is do you think there was enough distinction there to dedicate a $5,000 camera to only shoot black and white and remove the options to do anything else? I think the answer for some people is yes. And I think the fact that you have a Leica and the way it's built and that just a bit better quality is worth it for them, especially at high ISO if you're into that kind of thing. But for most people, the answer would be no, because it's not worth it for them to be so limited on video features and not having color and all sorts of stuff like that. And so I'm kind of conflicted on this. Could I go into Lightroom and edit my black and white photos to make them look even more like this? I bet you I could get close. If I threw the 18 1.4 on this, which is a 28 millimeter, about 1.8-ish, maybe f2 equivalent, would you really be able to tell a difference versus the 28 1.7? Maybe a little bit, but probably minimal. And so it begs the question, is this worth the $5,000 used, 4,000 something, whatever it was, versus just putting a good lens on your current camera, whatever it is, Fuji, Canon, Nikon, Sony, and shooting in RAW or shooting in even the black and white monochrome profile on your camera and using that? That's the question. And I'll be honest with you, after shooting with for a week and a half, I'm not so sure. I'm kind of conflicted. And those images I showed in the beginning of this video are kind of testament to that a little bit. They were different, but not a massive difference. So, guys, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think, and I'll offer one more piece for you to think about. For $5,000, how many rolls of film could you throw into this and develop with HP5 or T-Max or Tri-X? This camera is very cheap. It's true film. You get the film look, the grain. Something to consider. All right, guys. Appreciate it. See you in the next one. Bye.